Three men are in the hospital after a shooting. This happened around 3 this afternoon near 31st and St. Louis.
Man, this one cuts deep. The streets of Chicago are shaking right now. Pain, anger, disbelief all mixed into one storm. Lil Durk is sitting in federal custody, trapped behind cold metal bars, getting the kind of news that breaks even the hardest hearts. THF Bayzoo, one of his most loyal soldiers, one of the OTF Day 1 hitters, got taken out in broad daylight on the ruthless west side of Chicago. Reports flying all over social media say Zoo was just at a junkyard, minding his business, picking up some car parts. Out of nowhere, a car creeps up. Then two masked dudes hop out and start dumping. They let off round after round. No hesitation, no warning. Zoo was hit 3 times, one of them straight to the chest. A 7.62 Draco round, tearing through him. Like nothing. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but the damage was too much. He lost too much blood from the torso wounds, and according to heartbroken tributes from close homies like Duty Low, CEO, Big 30, and Pootie, Bayzoo didn't make it. This isn't just another Chicago headline or another drill tragedy. This one's personal. It's about loyalty, family, and how the empire Durk spent years building is falling apart while he's trapped in a cell, helpless, watching it crumble from the inside. But before we even get to Durk's reaction, you gotta understand who THF Bayzoo really was. Because this man wasn't just another name in the streets. He was the heartbeat of THF 46. Not a soldier, a leader. He was the one calling the shots, running the operation from top to bottom. THF 46, short for Trigger Happy Family, controlled the 46th and Drexel area in North Kenwood, a deadly zone that most people didn't even dare to step foot in. We talking about a hybrid gang here. Black Disciples and Mickey Cobras unified under one ruthless banner. And Zoo? He wasn't no follower. He was the one pulling the strings. But here's where things get real. Zoo wasn't out here clout chasing or pretending to be something he wasn't. He had a violent past, no denying that. He'd been connected to bodies before, even caught a murder charge once and beat it in court. Man was solid, street certified. The kind that didn't need a camera to prove who he was. The whole city knew his name carried weight. THF's history is soaked in war, battling crews like 051 Young Money, STL, EBT, Jarrow City, 757 and Brick Squad. But despite the bloodshed, they also built powerful alliances with O-Block, 600, and most importantly, OTF. That's how Zoo's bond with Lil Durk became unbreakable. This wasn't no fake rap industry brotherhood. This was real street love, the kind that's built through pain, loss, and survival. But what made Zoo's story truly powerful is how he tried to change. In 2018, after coming home from a stretch in jail, something in him shifted. In a no-jumper interview, Zoo revealed that he and King Von both converted to Islam that same year. They took their shahada together. They weren't playing about it either. They were serious about finding peace, about leaving behind all the destruction that came with the street life. For a man who had spent years in chaos, finding faith was more than just a choice. It was redemption. Zoo wanted to rewrite his story, to become a better version of himself. But as we all know, the streets rarely let go that easy. And in Chicago, trying to leave that life behind can be the most dangerous move of all. Even after finding faith, Bayzoo never fully left the streets behind. He still repped THF with pride, still handled business when it came down to it. But deep inside, the man was changing. You could see it in how he moved, how he talked. Bayzoo was growing into someone better, someone guided by discipline and purpose. That's exactly what makes his death so damn tragic. He wasn't out here chasing drama anymore. He was chasing peace. He was walking toward redemption, and the streets still found him. Now, to understand why Bayzoo's death shattered Lil Durk the way it did, we gotta look at where Durk is right now, because, fam, this man is living through pure hell. On October 24th, 2024, the feds swooped in on Durk at Miami International Airport right before he was about to board a private jet to Italy. They hit him with a conspiracy to commit murder-for-hire charge, accusing him of orchestrating a hit on Quando Rondo that ended with Rondo's cousin Lul Pab losing his life back in 2022. We're talking about potential life behind bars here. No parole, no deal, just straight federal time. Think about that. Durk, the same guy who had the charts on lock, who stood beside Drake and J. Cole, who went from the trenches to the Grammys, now facing the possibility of never breathing free air again. And it didn't stop with him. That same day, 5 other OTF members were taken down too. The feds dropped indictments like bombs, locking down the entire circle. They claim they've got everything: bank records, flight manifests, hotel receipts, surveillance footage, and even witness testimony, all pointing to Durk as the one who funded the whole operation. If that narrative holds in court, OTF is finished, wiped, out completely. And as Durk sits in that cell watching his empire crumble from the inside out, the destruction just keeps piling up. Federal agents froze his accounts, seized his luxury cars and properties, and left his label contracts hanging. In legal limbo, the money stopped flowing, the team stopped moving. The kingdom he built from the ground up, brick by brick, verse by verse, is disintegrating right in front of him. And then, as if that wasn't enough to crush a man's spirit, word reaches him behind those cold steel walls. THF Bayzoo is gone. One of his day one brothers, the same man who risked his life for OTF, murdered in broad daylight. Imagine that moment, locked in a cell, fighting for your freedom, and someone whispers that your brother didn't make it. That's a pain that burns straight through your chest, a type of heartbreak no words can fix. When that news broke, social media erupted. But it wasn't just random fans or bloggers posting RIPs. It was real family, real soldiers who had gone to war with Bayzoo. Duty Low, Big 30, even Pushisti, they all poured their hearts out in grief. Duty Low, Bayzoo's closest friend and OTF brother, shared a post that instantly went viral. You could feel the pain through the screen. See, Duty Low and Bayzoo weren't just homies. They were brothers in every sense of the word. These two came up from the same trenches, fought the same battles, shared the same dreams of making it out alive. Their loyalty ran deep. Decades of friendship, trust, and blood ties bound them together. And now, one of them is gone forever, leaving the other to carry the weight of that loss while the streets mourn another fallen soldier. That's the cruel cycle of Chicago. No matter how far you rise, the past always finds a way to pull you back. When Bayzoo passed, Duty Low was the first one to speak out, and you could feel it in every word he wrote. That post wasn't your typical "RIP bro" message thrown up for clout. Nah, this was real pain, raw emotion straight from the soul of someone who just lost his brother. Every sentence radiated heartbreak. You could tell this wasn't for social media engagement. This was a man publicly mourning someone who had been by his side through every war, every victory, every loss. Then came CEO Big 30 from Memphis, another heavyweight in the game, paying his respects. Big 30's connection to the OTF and THF family goes back years. And when he posted about Bayzoo, it hit the culture differently. It showed just how far Zoo's influence reached, stretching beyond Chicago's bloody borders all the way through the South's rap circuits. This wasn't just the city crying. It was the whole rap world bowing its head for one of the real ones. Big 30 didn't say much, but his message didn't need many words. It was brief, heavy, and full of respect, showing love to a man who carried himself with integrity even in the darkest environments. Then you got Pushiesti, still dealing with his own legal chaos, halfway out the feds, yet even he took a moment to honor Bayzoo. That says it all. When dudes from different cities, different sets, and different charges all pause what they're doing to pay tribute to one man, it means that man meant something. Zoo's reputation crossed every border, every hood, every tier of the game. But here's the part that's truly breaking Lil Durk right now. He can't do anything. He's completely powerless, locked up in that cell while his brother's funeral is happening, while the world mourns. And all he can do is sit there, thinking. He can't show up. He can't hug Duty Low or speak to Zoo's family. He can't even post a simple "rest in peace" on Instagram. His words, his presence, his money, none of it means a thing in that moment. Durk can't drop a bag for revenge, can't move a muscle without the feds watching. That's the cruelest form of punishment, being alive, but frozen, while the world you built and the people you love keep slipping away. That's the psychological torture he's enduring right now. Being behind bars while his circle gets smaller, while he's haunted by the thought that maybe, just maybe, if he'd been out, things would have gone differently. And that brings us to the hardest truth of all. Why Bayzoo was even back in Chicago in the first place. According to street insiders, Zoo wasn't just hanging around for nostalgia or to flex his stripes. Nah, he was there because of economic survival. When Durk was free, the money never stopped moving. He looked out for everyone, handling bills, covering legal fees, buying whips, paying rent, even dropping cash for funerals when needed. That's what only the family stood for. It wasn't just a name, it was a system. Durk was the provider, the engine that kept everyone running. And Bayzoo? As one of the day ones, he was taken care of too. He didn't have to risk the streets anymore. But the second the feds snatched Durk up, that whole financial structure collapsed overnight. Accounts frozen, assets seized, deals paused. The money flow stopped cold. And when the foundation cracked, everyone who leaned on it started to fall. So when the dust settled, Bayzoo made a decision. A painful, calculated one. He went back to what he knew best. He returned to Chicago, to the same streets he had once escaped, trying to hold things together the only way he could. It wasn't greed, it was survival. He was trying to make sure the people still depending on him didn't sink completely. But that choice, stepping back into that world, put a target on his back once again. And it cost him everything. Word on the street is that Bayzoo had started moving weed again, but not for power or status, just to survive. Man wasn't chasing fast money. He was trying to keep the lights on, pay the bills, and make sure his people ate. It wasn't about greed, it was about survival. See, some outsiders might ask, why didn't he just get a regular job? But that's the kind of question you can only ask if you've never lived that life. When you're a known figure from THF, with a name that echoes through every block in Chicago, walking into a 9-to-5 isn't exactly an option. Who's gonna hire someone whose name is tied to one of the city's most notorious sets? Who's gonna ignore that street reputation, the Google results, the old headlines? Even if he wanted to turn over a new leaf, corporate America doesn't welcome men like Bayzoo with open arms. So, backed into a corner, he did what he'd always known. He went back to the streets, started pushing small packs again, just trying to make it through each week. But here's where the danger skyrockets. When you step out of the game, and then years later step back in, you're not walking into the same battlefield. You're walking into a trap. Your enemies never forget your name. They never stop watching. They just wait for you to slip. And when they realize you're no longer rolling with the same protection, the same backing, you instantly become prey. That's exactly what happened at that junkyard. Bayzoo pulled up there to pick up car parts. Maybe for personal use, maybe as part of his side hustle. He had 2 people with him, likely for protection. But somebody knew he was there. Somebody had eyes on him, watching every move. They were patient, calculated, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when they saw him in a vulnerable position, they acted. No hesitation, no mercy. Now the whole city wants answers. Why did this happen? Who set it up? What was the motive? The streets are divided between 2 theories. The first one being that this was a drug transaction gone wrong. According to that version, Bayzoo might have been at the junkyard meeting someone for business, maybe to exchange money or product. What was supposed to be a simple, quick deal could have turned deadly in seconds. Maybe it was a setup. Maybe the other side came with bad intentions, trying to rob him. Maybe the deal went south, and tempers flared. In Chicago, that kind of situation is common. Drug deals flip into deadly shootouts in the blink of an eye. So yeah, that theory makes sense on the surface. But here's where it stops adding up. Why bring a Draco loaded with 7.62 rounds for a simple robbery? That's not the type of gun you use to scare someone or grab a quick bag. That's military firepower! That's overkill! When someone shows up with that kind of weapon, it means they're not just trying to take money. They're trying to erase someone from existence. That screams personal. That kind of precision and aggression points to something deeper, something planned. And that leads to the second theory, the one that's got the Chicago drill scene buzzing. Word is this was retaliation. Straight up payback for the murder of DMG Lil Scum. Last month, Lil Scum, a rising rapper from Chicago, was gunned down, and his death shook the streets. He was well connected, had ties across different sets, and was gaining serious momentum in the local scene. After his death, his people wasted no time pointing fingers. Instagram stories, tweets, subliminal disses and songs, it all started flying. Names were being dropped, shots were being fired online and off. And right at the center of all that speculation, THF 46, the same set Bayzoo led. The same crew everyone knew moved like a unit. Now, I can't confirm whether THF had anything to do with Lil Scum's death. But in Chicago, facts don't always matter. Perception does. And once the streets believe something, it becomes reality. The word was that Lil Scum's people had been plotting ever since September. They weren't moving sloppy. They were strategic, patient, and cold. They were watching THF's moves, keeping tabs on anyone connected. And when word spread that Bayzoo was back in the city, back moving around without the full OTF protection, handling his own business, They saw the opening they'd been waiting for. To them, it wasn't just another target. It was personal vengeance. They didn't want to rob him. They wanted to make a statement. And tragically, when that moment came, Bayzoo didn't even realize he was walking right into the crosshairs of a storm that had been brewing for months. Once the opposition realized Bayzoo was moving without OTF's full protection, they saw blood in the water, and that's when they made their move. This wasn't some random drive-by or a street scuffle gone wrong. This was planned, precise, and personal. They waited until he was isolated, exposed, and unguarded. Then they executed their plan with military-level precision. The violence wasn't sloppy, it was surgical. That Draco, those 3 fatal shots, it was all part of a cold, deliberate message. THF bleeds too. That's why the attackers came with heavy artillery. That's why they made sure to finish the job. They weren't there to scare anyone or make a quick robbery. They came to send a message. And that message was heard loud and clear across Chicago. The war isn't over. The timing backs up that theory too. It had only been about a month since DMG Lil Scum was killed, and tensions were still red hot across the South Side. People were still posting subliminals, still mourning, still angry. So when Bayzoo turned up dead, the streets connected the dots instantly. If this theory's true, Bayzoo didn't die because of something he did. He died for what he represented. He was a symbol of THF power. His name held weight. Taking him out wasn't just revenge, it was strategy. It sent shockwaves through the entire THF and OTF network. That's the brutal reality of Chicago street politics. You can be trying to live right, trying to stay out the way, but if your name still rings bells, you can be targeted just for existing. Sometimes you pay the price for other people's choices, for old wars that never ended. That's the kind of cruel fate that no amount of growth can protect you from. And now, the weight of all that pain is sitting squarely on Lil Durk's shoulders. Imagine being locked in a cold federal cell, hearing that your brother, someone who fought beside you, prayed beside you, was just gunned down in the streets you both fought to escape. It's a kind of pain that doesn't fade. It haunts. The first emotion Durk's battling right now is pure, crushing guilt. Even though he had nothing to do with the shooting, even though he's behind bars with zero control, that guilt is eating him alive, because in his mind, he knows. If he hadn't been arrested, none of this would have happened. If the feds hadn't frozen his accounts, if the OTF money was still flowing, Bayzoo wouldn't have been back in those streets hustling to survive. He wouldn't have been at that junkyard, wouldn't have been vulnerable. Durk can't help but connect the dots and think, my downfall became his death sentence. That kind of guilt breaks a man from the inside. It twists your thoughts, makes you relive every decision, every mistake, every moment you wish you could change. For Durk, it's more than mourning, it's mental torture. Then comes the isolation. He can't grieve properly. He can't stand at his brother's funeral, can't comfort Duty Low, can't even speak to Bayzoo's family. He can't post a single picture, can't share a single word without it being monitored by the feds. For a man who built an entire movement around brotherhood and loyalty, being cut off from that world is its own kind of punishment. All he's got are the memories. Those long nights in the studio, those deep talks about leaving the trenches behind, the laughter, the brotherhood. And now all of it plays in his mind like a broken record, over and over again, while the walls close in around him. And then there's the realization, the cold, devastating truth that everything he's built is slipping away. King Von, gone in 2020. Countless other homies gone too. Now Bayzoo. On top of that, his freedom, his money, his reputation, all under federal fire. The empire he created from the ground up is collapsing piece by piece, and he can't do a single thing to stop it. But what hurts even deeper is seeing how quickly people switched up. When Durk was at the top, charting hits, winning awards, feeding families, everybody screamed OTF4L. Everybody wanted to stand next to him, to ride the wave. But once the feds came knocking, silence. The same rappers who were flexing in photos with him, rocking his chains, shouting him out in interviews, they've gone ghost. And that's the harsh reality most artists never want to face. In this game, loyalty only lasts as long as success does. The moment your name's tied to federal charges, people start distancing themselves to protect their own image. That's what Durk's realizing now. When the lights fade and the cameras stop flashing, the love ain't always real. Sometimes the only people who ever truly had your back are the ones the streets already took away. Now that the smoke's clearing, the silence around Lil Durk is deafening. All those so-called connections, the rappers who once called him brother, the same industry folks who couldn't wait to scream OTF4L in every caption. Now they've gone ghost. They don't want that association anymore. They don't want their names popping up in any federal paperwork. They don't want agents digging through their texts, their flights, their money trails. Suddenly, the loyalty everyone bragged about online has vanished into thin air. So there Durk sits, in a concrete box, realizing the harshest truth of fame and the streets combined. Loyalty only lasts while the money flows. The people who were using his shine, his influence, his name for their own benefit are nowhere to be found. And the ones who were truly loyal, like Bayzoo, they're gone. They're dying out here in the trenches while Durk's powerless to protect them. That realization alone could crush any man's soul. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just one man's tragedy. This is the never-ending loop that's been strangling Chicago for generations. The cycle of loyalty, violence, and consequence. Durk built OTF to break that cycle, to give his people a different path, a lifeline out of the madness. Only the family wasn't just a slogan. It was supposed to be salvation. While Durk was winning, platinum records, award nominations, sold-out tours, he was also holding his people down. He paid bills, got lawyers, bought houses, and made sure his circle could live clean. As long as the money kept coming, he could protect them. He could keep them out of the streets, give them purpose, give them structure. But the moment the feds stepped in, the second his bank accounts froze and those wire transfers stopped, the machine fell apart. The protection evaporated. And when you take away stability in Chicago, what do people do? They go back to survival mode, and survival mode out there, it's brutal. It means hustling again, watching your back again, taking risks you swore you'd never take again. It means standing on blocks you thought you left behind for good. That's what happened to Bayzoo. He didn't die chasing clout. He died trying to live, trying to eat, trying to keep up with the world while everything around him was collapsing. It's cruel because this man had changed. He converted to Islam, he was trying to cleanse himself, trying to evolve spiritually and mentally. But bills don't care about your redemption. Rent doesn't care about your peace of mind. So when the legal money dried up, Bayzoo went back to what he knew, and the streets made him pay for it. That's the trap that no one ever escapes, no matter how far they run. The streets don't forgive. The moment you fall off, the moment your guard drops, they remind you who really runs the city. For Lil Durk, this is the worst-case scenario come to life. He's locked up, facing a federal murder-for-hire conspiracy that could keep him behind bars for decades, maybe forever. Meanwhile, outside those walls, everything he worked for is turning to dust. His day ones are dying, his name's getting dragged, and his empire's crumbling. The family he swore to protect is unraveling without him. It's like watching a kingdom burn down and knowing you can't even scream. And let's be real. This entire situation exposes the ugly truth about loyalty in street life. Bayzoo's loyalty was unquestionable. When the feds came for Durk, when the murder-for-hire headlines dropped, and when other rappers quietly deleted photos and distanced themselves, Bayzoo didn't flinch. He stood tall. He posted "Free Durk" when it wasn't safe to post anything. He repped OTF proudly until the day he died. But look at what that loyalty got him. It got him a bullet-riddled body in a junkyard. The man died carrying the same name that once protected him. And Durk? He can't even protect his own brother anymore. His money's frozen, his freedom's gone, and his power's stripped away. Everything he built, the empire meant to save them, collapsed overnight. So you have to ask, what was all that loyalty really worth? The streets tell you real recognize real, that loyalty is everything. But they never tell you the full story. They never say that loyalty might mean your mama's planning your funeral before you hit 35. They never tell you that it might mean dying for a cause that forgot how to save you. For Lil Durk, the death of THF Bayzoo isn't just another loss, it's the breaking point. It's a brutal reminder of everything he's lost already. King Von, gone in 2020. His blood brother, gone in 2021. Countless other homies gone too. His freedom, hanging by a thread. His empire, scattered. So now the question everybody's whispering, will THF retaliate? Will another wave of gunfire flood the streets in Bayzoo's name? And if history tells us anything, we already know the answer. The pain turns into vengeance. The vengeance breeds more pain, and the cycle keeps spinning. The real question, the one nobody wants to face, is this. When does it stop? When do these men finally decide that loyalty to the streets ain't worth dying for? Because every time it comes full circle, all that's left is another body, another headline, and another mother crying over loyalty that never saved her son.